on the porch with Qua. And when you're on the porch with me, go somewhere, sit down, enjoy, pull your coffee out, pull your tea out, water, your adult beverage, whatever that details, and just enjoy with us, man. While you're watching this, you may have some questions later. Listen to what we have to say, think about it, and talk about it later. I'm sitting here, I'm honored today, man. I'm sitting here with I think our fellow Generation Xer, I think, close. He's somewhere there. Jodi Habush Sinykin, powerful young lady, and I use the term young, and I mean that because we are, all right? She's going to be my guest today, and we're going to have an in-depth conversation just about life, about who we are, what we do, her passion, her belief system, and most importantly, what a better Wisconsin looks like for all of us, all right? So with that being said, I want to do a quick, and Jodi, I just want to say this, I'm going to read your bio, but I'm not going to go all the way through it. I'm going to go back and forth. But before I read the bio, I just got to do this. And before I introduce you, I know something that I didn't tell you in the very beginning of the interview. Is that all right if I share?
Sure.
You're a dog lover.
Oh, am I ever?
Yeah, I've heard you're a dog lover, rescue, and I heard you like to take long walks.
I do.
Okay. All right. So if I can, I'll read a little bit. Jodi's bio. Jodi is the youngest daughter of Mimi and Robert Habush, a well-known trial lawyer, and grew up in a household dedicated to community and standing up for those in need in care and protection. With a sister with special needs, Jodi witnessed firsthand her sister's challenges and her parents' heartache, leading her to empathize with other families experiencing difficulties of their own. I'll start there. So, in some way, what you do has been a part of you your entire life, would you say?
Absolutely. I'm 7 years younger than my sister. She was the first in that group of young people who were the first in the special ed system in Wisconsin. Before her, before an attorney general's opinion, there was no special education for kids like her. So she and like the same group of people went through the special ed system, and I spent so many memories of my childhood at Special Olympics. So,
with your sister?
Yes, but not just for her. Like you kind of build community with the families of these special needs kids. Even though I was younger, I could do so much at Special Olympics with helping with give out the awards and water and the cheering, and that was my earliest sense of community was through Special Olympics.
I like that. I love the term you use, sense of community. All right. In reading your bio, I saw a lot of things things you fight for, things you speak out for, but you use that term sense of community, with your dad being a trial lawyer. You're growing up in that. Tell me, how does that build a conviction in you, or how does that lead you to where you are now in the work you're doing?
It's a really interesting question, just because you're making me think of myself as a child. Even back then, I am just not a bystander. I mean, I'm just thinking about me on the school bus, which I did for so many years of my life, like so many others. And there's always those kids picking on somebody.
The bully.
There's always, and I don't know what it is about school buses that brings them out. That's just in my life experience.
Right.
So even if it weren't my sister, I was always sticking up for either other special needs kids or others who were just getting plain old picked on. And I've carried that value from middle school, grade school, all the way up to my age now. I just cannot stand by when I know that there's something I can do that could help something that is unjust or unfair.
And you see that clearly as unjust, as you said. It's a sense of community. So I'm a writer and a speaker. I've always loved to hear people tell stories. And I've always felt like I needed to speak for somebody who didn't. Hearing you state that since you were a child, you didn't stand by. There's no such thing as well, it's not my business. So you got in it, you got in the fight. Like you're there, you're on the bus, you're in the community. Has that been a part of, because later on you went to law school. So tell us a little bit about the journey of, I kind of think we'd be poetic here, the journey of Jodi. If you don't mind, the journey of Jodi.
Little alliteration, right?
Yeah, because I mean, just to say in the beginning, for those that don't know, you practice law, but I wanted to put that context that it didn't just go, some people say, I'm gonna be a lawyer because this is the thing. I'm gonna be a lawyer, I'm gonna be a doctor, but you're saying it got personal because you had a sister with special needs. This is for those who are just watching or don't understand. A building now has ramps, a building now has extra teachers. They have so many things that can deal with young people with special needs. But we're talking in the early days of school. This is like hard. There are no ramps in the building, right? Elevators, or even teachers at that time sensitive to the needs. So here you are as a child, like, it's personal to you, but you're also defending. So take us through that journey of Jodi's journey from, that's the part where we find the conviction and the why and why you start defending, and then when it moves into high school, college, and law.
I'll do my best to do that. I think, like many people, I was most influenced by my mom. She really fought to keep Sherry at home with us. This was in the early 60s.
Yes.
So Sherry was born in 1960. At that time in our history, kids who were brain injured were sent away. And you probably don't even know this, but they were put in institutions. And my mom was just heck to the no. She wouldn't do it. She just wouldn't do it. And she got a lot of pressure to do it, mind you.
From community school,
from family members, community members. People didn't understand it how, and mind you, she was 20 years old. Young, my mom was young and brave in that regard. But because she had made that commitment, she was always fighting to get Sherry involved in things. Like I said, there was no special education, so she wasn't allowed to be in school. So she fought to get her into nursery school and Montessori, and eventually through my father's outreach to the Attorney General of Wisconsin to come up with an opinion that said that all children in Wisconsin have a constitutional right to education, including special needs children. Right. And that is what launched the first ever special ed grades in Wisconsin. So it was literally so very important to my family, and that's how I was raised. But really much watching my mom, as so many people have their moms, doing all the driving and taking Sherry to all the different therapies she needed and tutoring and things that would allow her to live as full and independent a life as possible. I obviously observed that. And when I went to college, where I worked for 3 of my 4 years was at a crisis center called SOS Crisis Center. It's in a community outside of Ann Arbor called Ypsilanti.
Ann Arbor, Michigan?
Yep. Okay. If anybody knows Ypsilanti, Michigan, it is the former site of 3 large institutions that had been closed. And there was just a high population of people in need.
Excuse me.
Homeless people, people who had mental health problems, significant ones. And I worked there. I worked there, did the nighttime shifts, the daytime shifts, did a lot of the counseling and also providing just basic services for people. And that definitely was, again, back to, I had a community of colleagues and friends and people that we just felt very much committed to working with those group of people. And that was important to me because it helped me understand what I would want to do in law school, which was very much to try to help people. So
Jodi, if I can, Jodi, I mean, because what I'm hearing, and I mean this, and I'm being very sincere, you didn't take the easy road because this is doing law school, am I right? This is college. This is during college.
This is college. I did that crisis. In college, I did other internships.
But you could have took another road, but you directly jumped into this, right? Right. So you got on the ground training right there because this is crisis, and you're a young person yourself at this time, and you're dealing with all of these pieces. They say you are being made as you're making your move. Do you feel like that was what shaped some of your beliefs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Depending upon our childhood and circumstances, we either are exposed or removed from those type of experiences. And being sheltered is not the gift that it sounds like it is. It's more important to really have experiences and get to know people in different circumstances and be able to feel that you're helping to make a difference. So I did really feel good about that.
Right.
That very much shaped me. And I kind of felt like even like the really late night, the 12 to 4 in the morning shifts, which just so you know, you take turns. You can't just do the earlier in the day ones.
You committed. Everybody has got to be a piece of, yes.
You do. And that gave me a good feeling that I was doing hard things and proud of what I was doing.
Yeah. And mom, can I go back to mom? Because there's a question I have to ask about leadership. Who were some people who influenced you? And I'll let you speak on them, but I have to go back to that point where you said, man, my mom, you know, when you watch your mom, my mom was my greatest recovery. I saw my mom when she was young, had her battle back and forth with substance, and I watched her defeat it.
Good.
She went back to college, she got her degree, she made the dean's list. She was the first person I saw turn their life around. So that was my reference point. I was listening to you just now speak about, man, your mom. Like, would she be, I'm only asking, would she be that influence, or was she that driving force that pushed you where you are? Because as you stated, mom was like, no, I'm not sending my child to this. I'm standing. And I watch you kind of light up when you talked about her. Would mom be that influence for you?
I think so. I love her so much. Uh-oh. I lost her about a year and a half ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry
Thank
to
you.
hear.
But she definitely had the strongest formative impact on me as a person and my values. But I have to certainly say that my dad, as a leader early, he is someone who is fiercely protective and shows his leadership in terms of who he takes care of. And he has a very strong ethic to help people who are vulnerable and disadvantaged. He's always taken on the big insurance companies, the big corporations, the big, those who have most of the power, most of the leverage on people who literally need representation to make themselves whole and to look out for their families. And I heard that every night at the dinner table.
This is the
it's
conversation.
like war. I mean, it's very much that. So no doubt my mom has shaped so much of me, but in terms of leadership and other aspects of it, it is definitely my father too. Boy, he definitely leads the charge in so many important ways.
I love the fact, could you say that again? He led by how he took care of people.
Absolutely.
How could you explain that? Because that's a you know, we was talking love language. We talk about leadership. You know, there's leaders who are vocal. There are leaders who are, I'll show you. But you said he led by how he took care of. Can you just explain that a little bit?
Absolutely. I can do. There's, as you know, with a parent, there's the personal, and then there's like the outside. From the personal, many years ago, and you as a poet, I think will relate to this, I found this beautiful photograph of a very old, scarred lion, and magnificent, but you could tell he had gone through quite a bit.
He had been through it.
And I did have it framed, and I wrote it with a mushy note to my dad, letting him know that that is how I saw him. And that is my personal, how my dad fought to take care of my mom through her illness, my family. He is just ferocious in his devotion. Taking it outside of his most dear, his loved ones, he directs that same ferocity to those that he has represented, those who have been injured by the malpractice, by the negligence, even worse, of others. And he shows up for those people, and I can tell you, the scales are not even until he joins their side. So that has been something that I have seen, that when people have everything stacked against them, it really helps to have a tiger, or in this case, a lion like him on their side.
Can I get one of those? Wait.
Yeah.
You said the lion on their side.
You bet.
So you have really almost, and as we go into your work, am I wrong to say you kind of been groomed, and not groomed, but you are what you see. You are what you see. I hear you speak that they spoke, that your parents, one, you had a mom who was fighting for You're going to treat my child normal. We're not going to play this game. You're going to treat my child normal. I don't care what society says. You're going to treat my child normal. Then you, on the other hand, there's dad in the house, and he's taking on those that don't have as I want to say, the unprotected.
Yep.
He's fighting, and this is his mantra. And you even have an image, an archetype of the scars. This is who you are, right? So you're almost, when we get into your work, right? I know you're married, mom. You're telling me about the quarters. You're talking about the quarters outside. Tell me the family life now, and how what you saw groomed you into the woman you are.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I can just tell you, my kids are all grown up. I have, my eldest is 29.
Okay.
Then I have a 27-year-old.
Okay.
A 25-year-old,
okay,
and a 23-year-old. So my birdies my chickies, I guess, have flown the nest.
Like this,
23
to 29.
Yeah, I had 4 in 5 years and 3 months.
Okay, all right.
So, it was just a fabulous crew.
Okay.
A lot of hugs and
boys,
doings.
girls.
I have 3 boys and 1 girl.
Oh, so you're what is it, mom, dad, girl, dad, girl, mom.
Yeah,
girl, son.
I'm, as you can imagine, I know, just so close to all of them, but I just love those years so much when they were growing up and in the house. I miss it. They still come home plenty, but I just think so lovingly and fondly to those years when we were all together, and all the busyness of all the activities and the schools and the dinners.
Right.
But that was, I have to say, probably my happiest years of my life so far. I just loved all of that. But through that, I always worked, and I would bring my kids to a lot of my events. So, you know, listening to you before we started being filmed about leading by example and building that. I took my kids to so many public hearings, including in Madison, with regard to, I was very involved and asked to spearhead a law that was ultimately passed to establish appropriate protections for breeding operations, which is just a big old fancy way to say I helped pass Wisconsin's puppy mill bill. And again, it had come to my attention before I got involved what was going on in Wisconsin. We were rock bottom in the country, just horrible facilities, people's garages and basements and barns, and it just inhumane, ugly, horrible places. And it was affecting people also because they were buying these animals and paying enormous veterinarian bills, and the heartache that goes with this whole situation. For 7+ years, there had been an effort to try to pass a law. Finally, I was hired to represent Wisconsin Humane Society and work with Wisconsin Federated Humane Societies around the state, law enforcement, veterinarians, concerned citizens, to really try to come up with a law that would appropriately regulate, eyes on these places, humans coming to look and say, clean this up or get out of the business. And that is what we were able to accomplish. But I did bring my kids to those. And that made a big impression on them. And same, of course, with all my environmental work. I brought them to so many hearings and talks and speeches and marches and all of that. It just kind of comes with it. You go with the family.
Yeah, because you saw it also. Am I correct? You repeat it in the work. Again, the work I do, we repeat what we see.
Yep.
Right? So you were able, with your mom and dad, to instill this in you. So it was only right to say, this is what I'm going to do. All right, so I want to share this. It says, I'm going to go back a little bit. After graduating from Nicollet High School, all right, Nicollet High School, all right, you attended the University of Michigan as an undergraduate, followed by Harvard Law School. Got to shout out Harvard. After receiving her law degree in 1992, Jodi began her professional career by serving as a judicial clerk to a federal district court judge, followed by a decade of private practice, ultimately as a partner at the Wisconsin-based law firm Habush, and Rotier.
That's right.
That's how I knew the name.
That's right.
That's how I knew the name. Jodi is married to her longtime sweetheart, Dan Sinykin. born and raised in Whitefish Bay, and the couple moved back to Wisconsin in 1995 after they purchased a textile mill based in Milwaukee.
That's right.
You go to Michigan,
Yeah.
right? And now you make your way back to Milwaukee. Look at all the things. I mean, and you didn't flex, but like I'm reading this. Harvard, right? A clerk, a judge. I mean, all of these different things, right? And then you make your way back to Wisconsin. Why?
Both Dan and I, both our parents lived in Milwaukee. We grew up here. So it was when we were starting to think about having our family, we wanted the grandparents around us. I was raised in my home with a great aunt who was like a grandma.
Yeah.
She had the bedroom right next to mine and was just so beloved to me. My youngest is actually named after her. Like that was my childhood experience, and I couldn't really imagine not having that for my kids, having that grandparent, like that multi-generational connection.
So tell me about your history in law. Some of the things you were involved in. The trip to Harvard, right? Boston, am I correct?
That's correct.
I stayed out there. I was at the when when he was senator and he gave the speech to be, the speech, and everybody said that's gonna be the next president. I was out there during that time.
That's cool.
I got this. The music? Is it? What is it? What's the movie? I think it was with Lawrence Fishburne. It's The Mystic River. The Mystic River.
Oh, yeah.
So I got to see all of that out there.
That's interesting.
What was that like? Because that's the hub of, right? You were at Harvard. Can you give me a little experience of that? What that feels like to those who don't know? What's that whole experience like?
That's I knew when I went out there that I wouldn't be staying out there. So I really tried to make the most of the 3 years that I had there.
Okay.
So I did that by seeing as much of the surrounding areas as I could and really immersing myself in different internships in Boston. I did the domestic abuse internship where I helped women in those, largely women in those cases. Also the AIDS internship and also the homelessness project, and very much was involved in the world there. I have to tell you though, I did not know people when I moved out there, and my closest relationship that remains to this day was at 22, I joined the Big Brother, Big Sister program. And my little sister at the time, Melissa, was 12. Just doing the math, I am now 57 and she's 47. She's still my little sister.
Right,
and,
that's fair. No, that's fair. That's fair.
She and I spent so much time together. It was the best part of those 3 years. I know you're thinking it was a distraction from all the hard work and all of that, but it was really meaningful, excellent company because I never had a little sister. So Melissa to this day is one of my most important relationships. She now, the great thing is I can now be, she has 2 daughters. One is Olivia and one is Jodi. And so she named Jodi after me, which is a huge honor. And I stood up in Melissa's wedding and all of that.
So that's a whole connection. This is not just
strong. This is not a 3-year thing. This has been, gosh, just doing the math, a lot of years now. So that was the best part about being out there. Harvard is very cool. You've seen it in the movies and the like. It's a gorgeous environment, very competitive, a lot of hard work. I promise you that.
Does having that competitive, because from hearing you, I've read and your background and their fight, did you fit right into the competitive? Was you like, hey, come on, bring it. I'm with, as they say, the smoke. I'm like, hey, I'm with it.
I've always been, I think from around 5th grade, I have been someone who really liked my studies. I'm just saying. I'm a big reader. I do love poetry, I always have. And a lot of my self-esteem, self-worth came from doing well in school. And I was fortunate to have some excellent teacher role models. I could rattle their names off.
Give me one.
Miss Marilyn Radke.
Miss Marilyn Radke. Why Miss Marilyn?
She was so tough, so hard. She was my junior year teacher at Nicolay High School. And when you got that A from Ms. Radke, it meant something.
That was work, right?
Yep,
That
and
was
she
work.
taught me how to write really well. And that is a skill that professionally,
Yes.
most of my work has been very much public policy oriented. A lot of writing policy pieces, law review articles. To this day, that is really where I best am able to connect with people is through writing.
So that you can write, work in her class, that's preparation.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this whole process when you're creating these policies, because anyone that's listening can tell one thing we can clearly see, you're going to fight. There's not going to be a pushover.
Yep.
You are bringing it. It's embedded, right? It's there. The causes, where you've been. A lot of times, especially, and I think in the climate now, when it comes to politics, what we hear in our communities, and I mean not just the Milwaukee community, but abroad, a lot of people, if I'm wrong, you could tell me, some people are frustrated with politics. Some people are disconnected. Some people feel powerless. And some people feel like it's what's in it for me, right? Some people vote on the low and say, I just want to vote. But then we don't understand policy. We'll vote on the highest level of the election, but we really need to be paying attention to the local election because that's, right, that's where it is. Could you talk about policy? One, you're able to write, I understand that, but can you articulate why it's important for people to understand the power of policy in our modern day and in this election? Because we've been stating that this election is one of the most important, without a question.
It is.
No matter what happens in this election, whatever candidate is in office, I think our country is going to be completely different from this point on. That's me, and we can go further into it. But when you speak on policy, how important is it for policy? And when it comes to our local communities, how is it important for that?
I absolutely think that politics is part of life. And it's really important. And there can be a big P politics or a small P politics.
Like that. Yes.
And I see politics as an opportunity to just give life to this community that we're talking about. In my experiences through all these years, I have felt so much solidarity working with people on various causes, whether it's defending the Great Lakes, whether it is protecting wildlife on behalf of our native tribes in Wisconsin, wolves, etc.
Yes.
Very much focusing on certain issues, but it really is bringing people together. So anything that has strong support starts at the grassroots.
I love it.
It's really people coming together because they care about something and they want to see change. Something that makes a lot of sense in these current times, and an issue certainly at the top of the ticket, and most certainly here in Wisconsin, all the way down to the lower parts of the ballot, you know, the Assembly and Senate, is women's right over their own bodies, access to essential reproductive health care, freedoms. We talked about it before, about human rights, the right to keep ourselves safe and healthy, and to have the ability to have self-autonomy over our futures and our families' well-beings. That is the core of a human right. And I just want you and your listeners to know that at the local level and at the top of the ticket, they need to come forward. This is not an election to miss.
Thank you.
So we need people to look out not just for themselves, but for our futures, because this is a consequential election on that very issue.
And again, you drop in, as we say, hip hop jewels, because as you stated, policy brings us together. There's the big politics and the little. You didn't shy away from the fact that there's politics in what we do, but you made it human by saying you can't miss this election, because you miss this election, you miss life. This is, especially when it comes. So I work with young men of color, right? I'm the biggest advocate for your zip code should not determine your place in life. It should not determine if you're going to live or die. It should not determine your education, your safety, etc. So I'm always speaking for those who can't speak, but I'm telling young men, man, you have to protect your life. You have to speak and let the world know you're here. Do something so people remember you. And then when you do it for you, then go back and help. I was fortunate enough that someone, you speak of teachers, Miss May, my 6th grade teacher.
Okay.
I'm looking, so anybody ever watches this, I've been looking for Miss May for the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years. Miss May is the reason I'm able to write poetry. The day I was in school, my father lost his life. My father was killed. I didn't tell anyone. I went to school, I didn't say anything. I tore a classroom up because I couldn't go to gym. But Miss May had me write a poem. That poem got me the attention I never got in my life. When I wrote that poem, that started everything. That started everything, all right? So I go back and I help young men in the same way. When I heard you speak about the right for women and their understanding of their body, this is yours. You got really passionate just now about that, all right? What would you say to those, who feel like a woman should, and I'm trying to make it in the context where I want you to talk directly to them, that what would you say to those that want to take away that right?
I would really want to go right to their motives about control and trying to impose their ideology, literally their belief system on others.
Yes.
And that is a form of oppression. People have to have control over their own beliefs, their own ideas, and come to them in the way that you described it came to you.
Yes.
And it came to me from my life experiences.
Yes.
We don't want anybody else's beliefs forced upon us, especially when it comes to our health and our very ability to survive.
Yes.
And those same people who are trying to impose their ideology on women and get all in their business, I promise you, are going to be out for other people who aren't just women and try to do the very same. It's about control and really creating the in and the out. What I think most people do not like about politics, and count me in on this one, is when there are politicians who seek to divide us, who seek to focus on the other and beat up on the other and make up lies about the other and just create this demonization, which I have seen throughout history. I assume you have seen it too. It's a playbook that these types.
You said the exact word. It's a playbook.
It's a playbook.
It's almost one big theatric, right? It's a playbook. Yes. Right.
And we fall for it. There must be something in the human condition. People fell for it in Germany in the 1930s leading up to the Holocaust. The same playbook we're seeing now against immigrants and others. Literally, it's almost straight up from a Hollywood script. But we can't allow ourselves to fall for that. We have to look to see the human faces behind whoever is the other of the day and not accept that.
Not accept it. And make it human, right?
You bet.
Because the first way to hurt someone is to dehumanize them.
You bet.
Right? The slavery, doing slavery, they dehumanize people of color.
Yep.
They took you down to your lowest, and when you see him now, you don't see a human, right? In the work, again, I'll go back to this, and I was reading in your bio about what you feel about K through 12 education, right? There's so many numbers about how America's falling behind. We're low in this in education. We're not spending enough time in this in education. And there's arguments and there's fights about school choice, and there's arguments and fights about public school. It's a back and forth. And when I say this, and I'm not making it small, but this is, sometimes I see it as a tennis game, but it's not. There's no conversation about the students, about the youth, right? When you look at the K through 12 system, right? If you could say, these are some things I would love to see done better, and this is some things I would like to stop seeing, what would that be?
Gosh, it's such a great question. As I kind of started our conversation talking about the constitutional right in Wisconsin to education, that doesn't just mean rudimentary education. It means a quality education. And like anything else, and we all know what it takes to have a quality product in anything in life, and that is investing. And to do that, like you had with your 6th grade teacher, and I had in my 11th grade teacher, and others as well, you need to start with having qualified teachers who we are supporting as a society. And what had gone on with Act 10 and putting...
Explain Act 10, if you don't mind. Can you, just as briefly, I understand what it is, but again, we have people watching who may not know. Could you explain a little of Act 10?
It was a law that was passed in Wisconsin that removed the ability of teachers and other public workers in Wisconsin from the ability to be able to negotiate for their salaries and for their benefits. And what it has resulted in over the last 10 plus years is about a 19% income loss. And for children in the classroom, what it means is that we now officially have a teacher shortage in Wisconsin, where we used to have amazing
abundance,
amazing. Now we have young teachers who are graduating, and they're not coming to Wisconsin because they're making financial and career decisions.
Because it's a finance, so it's not even a career; it's a financial decision now. Am I right? Go ahead. I just wanted, because it's a financial decision now.
It is, and by having not enough teachers, what we're having now are classrooms up to 35 kids per teacher. We're having increased difficulty keeping our teachers, as well as just need for more special education resources, which some of it came through, as you would imagine, through the pandemic. And all the kids who had to struggle with the video and the
just the whole piece of it, the whole piece of not being in school. There's a population that hadn't been in school for 3 years.
I mean, think of that.
Yeah. If you were graduating in 8th grade, you didn't become a freshman, sophomore, and so you didn't go into high school until your junior year. So you had none of that social. And I don't think a lot of, I don't think a lot of people have empathy for that. That as adults, we kind of worked our way back in. But you're talking about school, no matter how we look at it, is a socialization for young people. You learn certain traits in school. And so when you say, oh, school is shut down, nobody's going to school, you're going to learn from the computer. You have kids who have never, and especially if you're in a pre, right? So you never walked in a building. You had no, you know anything about, and so when you did go back in the building, this is like, what is, you know what I mean? So the Act 10, and then we had COVID. In my work, COVID dismantled in areas of, I hate to use the word disenfranchised, but in areas, as we spoke on, that are labeled low economic areas, low education areas. And I use the term label because you have to look beyond what is being said and go into what you actually see. And I've seen resilient people in these areas, but it dismantled so many things. It was already a divide in some sense, a despair already. It was somewhere already there. But then you have COVID come in, now it's really one, right? And we spoke on Act 10, and now people, I want to go back to that part where you say it became not a profession, but a financial choice. I want to help. I want to be involved, but this is what I'm making. Can I sustain a lifestyle and contribute at the same time?
Absolutely.
How you spoke on that. You can please continue on that as you're speaking about the losing of teachers and the bigger classrooms.
Yeah, I can just say money of our choices is how we spend our money. I mean, at the personal level, do we spend it on groceries? Do we spend it on clothes? Whatever the heck. I mean, we all have our things to make choices on. As a society in Wisconsin here, there was a choice, again, by politicians. I'm just using the small p.
Please.
That their decision was to not invest, not spend money on education, all the way from kindergarten to high school, and at the university level, 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges. And that decision, that 10 plus years of a disinvestment.
10 years, that's a whole decade.
I mean, literally, it has put us back. It has put our universities back. It has been putting our schools back. And who, unfortunately, who's paid the price, of course, the most are our children. And actions and spending decisions have consequences. And this is why when people have an opportunity to go to the polls and make their voices heard, if they want investment in our young people, in our education here in Wisconsin at the local level and at the state level, We need legislators who will follow through on those commitments.
And that 10 plus years, and if I'm right, when you biggest classrooms, the trauma of COVID, the trauma just, a lot of the young men and women I work with, be they black, white, Asian, Latino, male, female, are dealing with trauma. Young people, mental health is serious in our community, right? I want to tie this in with your environmental work, right? Because all of that plays into mental health, all of it, from the fumes that you may deal with from the gas companies. The one side of town is used for a dumping area, right? Polluted waters, parks, etc. I know that's something you stand for, but hearing you speak on how you fought, how you were reared to fight, when you deal with the environmental, right? How does that tie into our day-to-day life? Because some people will see that and say, "Wow, that's not that big." You understand what I mean? Some people see that and go, "Oh, well, fight for parks and fighting for lakes, that's not that big." But if we look at the whole, everything is connected. If you take one thing out the ecosystem, it affects everything, correct? How important is that in every part of the Milwaukee community?
Absolutely. I can just tell you, there's a term that the Obamas established during his presidency, environmental justice. And it very much is speaking to what you just stated, that connection, that nexus between people's living conditions and their environment, their health, their lives. And at the School of Freshwater Sciences, I taught for 6 years. One of the things I taught, one of the classes was an environmental justice class. And I kind of came up with this rubric, FAIR.
Okay.
So is this a kind of a test asking, is this a fair, is the proposal that they're looking to put in, is it fair to both sides in terms of people who are advantaged or disadvantaged?
Right.
A, is this accessible to all or just to a few? Is there dangers attendant to it? And then risks and rewards. Who bears the most risks, which as you can imagine are people who are more vulnerable and disadvantaged, and who gets the bulk of the rewards? Guess who that is? It's the corporations or people who are more affluent. And we just kind of went through a lot of different scenarios locally and nationally to see if that FAIR test would work. So in Milwaukee area, it really is a big deal in terms of lead pipe replacement, because we all know the lifelong implications of exposure to lead in any amount. So that has been a really important priority with regard to environmental justice, but also just access to green spaces.
Thank you.
Personally, my favorite thing about Milwaukee, living here for as long as I have, which is most of my life, is that we have just about 10 minutes away. If we can get there, about 10 minutes away to beautiful places. Bradford Beach along the lakefront, Estabrook Park, Kletch Park, Doctors Park. They're just all over just to get outside. And I personally think children especially need it. They need to be able to play and to have the sun on their faces and to have the grass and the trees, the birds, all of that. We need to be able to be a community where kids can access that.
You use the term access, the green space, right? As a man of color, a black man in America, industry, Milwaukee was a place of industry at one time. It was affluent for black families. They said this is one of the most prosperous places. Industry is leaving America left and right. It's leaving cities like Milwaukee, Chicago. And I grew up in that era where once they left, the drugs hit the neighborhood and it devastated 10 years, as you say, all right? But now and we can say that with the Obamas, the green jobs are coming through. Detroit has become called the Green City now.
Good.
Yeah, because of how the gardening and things. Does that tie in also when you're saying the access just having access to fresh food, to fresh running water? I don't mean in the house, but just being able to say, I work with some young men, right? They live on the east side of Milwaukee. We took them to the lake, and to Estabrook. We took them to the lake. Myself and my good brother Muhib Dyer, and the conversation they had, like, why did we go this way? I mean, what you mean? Why did we didn't go the long way? The lake was 5 minutes from their house. It's 5 minutes to 10 minutes from their house, all right? But they haven't been there. Just seeing water, grass, sand, the people seeing them as, I'm just gonna say it, rough thugs, bad kids, etc. When we took them to the lake, they were little kids playing.
Yeah.
15, 16, they were kids now because they had access to just that. How important, you say community, all right? And I love the term, I love the fact, Jodi, that you've mentioned community on here so much, really, because that's what it looks like, right? If you could do it, let's make the picture the best way you can. What does a greater Milwaukee and Wisconsin look like for you? You can take it wherever you want. What does a great Wisconsin look like for you?
For me, it is literally a Wisconsin that brings all of us forward, that allows all of us to reach our potential and have that, what you talk about, those fundamentals of safety and families and a sense of connections with others bigger than just ourselves. And nature does bring that out in people.
Yes.
It makes you feel grateful and it puts you to a peaceful place. So the work that many people do for the Milwaukee River Keeper, they do the river cleanups.
Yeah.
I love seeing everybody from all ages, grandparents on down to kids, grade
Community
school
again.
kids,
Yeah.
coming together for a good cause. The Conservation Corps, which I know that they're doing all across the greater Milwaukee area. Such a great thing. Again, it's building friendships, taking them to beautiful places, but also allowing them to see the impact of their own actions, that they are leaving a place better off than where they started.
Come on,
and that's what I see at the state level, is us moving us all together, and we can do it. Just to be a tiny bit wonky, we've got a $5 billion plus surplus right now. We've got some give, to say the least, where we can make those investments in our children, in our communities, in our education, in our health care, to bring us all forward. We don't need to withhold that just for the big P reasons, the big political reasons. We need to be thinking of all of us together. That's the way Wisconsin is going to be a far better place in the years ahead than it is right now.
It's good to sort of go back to your acronym FAIR, right?
Yep.
It needs to be fair, correct?
That's correct.
Risk and reward, right? You're holding that, right? 10 years of taking and not giving, you see the result, right? Imagine if we were giving, just as you said, protection, safety, nurturing, caring. So I have had did you enjoy this today?
Oh my gosh, I could go on a very long road trip with you.
Oh man, listen. So I got to do this because I have to. So I'm from Chicago, right?
Okay.
And
we won't hold that against you.
All right, okay. I don't root for the Packers. It's just that simple. I can't. You do understand that.
Okay.
You got to understand. Okay. So Packers fan?
Definitely.
Favorite player?
Jordan Love. He was my #1 draft pick on my fantasy football team.
All right, Jordan Love. Favorite Packer from back in the day?
Oh my gosh. That's going to be a harder question. No, honestly, I knew the ones that I wasn't supposed to like because my dad would be screaming, Lynn, Dickey, you, blank. So I knew the ones that I wasn't supposed to like. Let's put it that way.
All right, okay. Bucks fan.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I am a Bucks fan. I'm a Bucks fan.
Very glad.
Okay, I'm a Bucks fan. Bucks fan. Favorite Bucks player?
Oh my gosh, it's going to be so hard. Of all time?
Yes, let's do that.
Of all time would be Junior Bridgman. I had
over Oscar Robertson and Kareem.
Oh, Oscar Robertson was hanging in my closet. I had a poster of him doing his layup. Yeah, I feel badly not saying Oscar Robinson, but that shows my age more than Junior Bridgman.
Would it be five? Well, let's do this. 5 Bucks team. Your top 5 Bucks players. If you had to create a Bucks team, real quick, 5 Bucks players you put on there. It can be positioned. It doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to call him blank. Obviously, Giannis.
I'll give you Giannis.
Oscar Robinson.
Oscar Robinson.
Junior Bridgman. I really very much liked Quinn Buckner.
Chicago guy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Chicago guy.
Yeah, he was.
Yes.
See, again, this is very much
Yes,
my age.
yes.
Thinking like nowadays, I won't bring up people who were traded because that really makes me sad. I'm not over it. I also really like Brian Winters.
Okay, I was a big fan of Brian Winters.
Me too.
Shoot the ball. Great. Those are great teams back in the day. They just
Thank
could.
you.
It was either they couldn't beat the Sixers or they couldn't beat
Sidney
the
Moncrief. I just
Sid
like,
Moncrief.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my man. Sidney
I'm a
Moncrief.
little bit blanking out of like all the current ones that I know. The second I leave here, I'm gonna be like, oh,
No,
shoot.
I think that was a good. Those are great Bucks players. I got to give you that. Brewers.
Uh-oh, this gets me into a little bit of treacherous territory. My husband, Dan, is a huge Brewers fan.
Okay.
And I tend to be the one who's watching it at the very, very, very end. So I struggle a little bit there. I do. I won't be able to rattle off a lot of those folks.
Do you remember the 1982 team with Robin
Yes.
Young?
I
World
was,
Series team?
yeah, I think I was a freshman in high school.
Yes. Oh man, that was a great team. They played St.
Robin
Louis.
Yount and Paul Molitor.
That team.
That
Yeah,
team.
Cecil Cooper, Ben
Oh
Ogley.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Ben Ogley was a left
Yes,
fieldman.
yes,
I'm feeling
yes.
proud of myself that I remembered he was in left field.
Yes. I was in the house when the Brewers. I was there just now when they lost that playoff game.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That was the worst.
So you're a big Brewers fan?
Unless they play in the Cubs.
Okay.
Now, but I've always liked Brewers baseball. Right? I always liked Brewers baseball. As we leave, I want to do this, but big into yoga.
Yeah.
Enjoy yoga.
I love it.
Why is yoga play a part of the environmental well-being, health, etc.?
I think for me personally, it's probably the best way that I practice self-care. I can enter the room a bit out of sorts, and I leave feeling 100% better.
Yes.
Centered, grounded, and cared for.
Yes.
So I think that's my fastest way to turn things around in less than an hour.
The mindfulness. You know, they've started incorporating yoga in the classrooms and breathing into the classrooms. We do it with the young men I work with. We bring a good friend of ours, Brother Lou. He teaches Just Breathe, mindfulness, wellness, and we do some of the stretches and the breathing techniques in the classroom with him. So I've seen it work. I've seen this work. It's magic. I've seen this work. It's magic. So I have to ask 3 questions as we get ready to get out of here.
Okay.
And you just finish the sentence for me. I enjoyed you so much. I'm going to give you some daps. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
thank
Thank you for
you.
being unapologetically you, telling the story and keep fighting. We need more people like yourself. You humanize people. And that's what we're missing in this world, of humanizing and seeing the differences in each other and celebrating those differences and not being blind to what people go through and where we come from. So finish the sentence if you can, and just finish it the best way. The truth is,
What's real?
if this world was mine,
I would make it beautiful and healthy.
I am unapologetically.
Myself.
And that's all I need to know. Hey, listen, this was Black on Purpose. It's a wrap. I'm sitting here. This was a great interview.